Hi guys, welcome once again to the Coffee and Heroes Show, your weekly roundup of all the comic news, everything going on with the store, our favourite titles of last week, what to look forward to next week, and anything else that catches our eye. Your host as always, Alan, owner and operator of Coffee and Heroes in Smithfield, Belfast, just in case you're not a regular. But yeah, sorry, apologies that it's a little late this week. We had my grandmother's funeral there over the weekend, so it was a bit of a weekend of reflecting and taking our time and everything else. So it's a nice service. It was nice to sort of give her a bit of peace, I suppose. We are hoping to do a little bit more of a remembrance service if the current lockdown rules get softened a little bit, but we'll just have to wait and see with that. It was due to be her birthday in 2 weeks' time, so it would actually be quite fitting that we could do it on them, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, outside of that personal stuff, I wasn't in the store an awful lot last week. Vicky was there plenty. She reported it was a really, really busy week. Tons of sales, tons of graphic sales. Graphic sales seem to be going up and up week on week. More and more people, I think, coming to comics, which is great to see. Some great single issues out last week as well. A lot of big titles, and also we've got the fact that we've sent off more and more stuff to CGC, so more people are dropping that stuff in as well. People looking entryways into comics as well, which is great. New readers, giving them starting points. It's been really good for the store recently. We should say that there are a couple of restrictions now in place. We advertised them last week. So the joy of Belfast City Council is that they sent us an email last week, and the email itself was originally supposed to be sent on the 16th of October. We received it on the 5th of November, telling us about how there were to be no sit-in facilities, takeaway only, that kind of thing. We're more than happy to abide by the rules as long as we know what they are. So we have now changed the store slightly. There's no sit-in facilities for the moment, which is a real shame because obviously we thrive on community. We thrive on people sort of hanging out, catching up, seeing friendly faces, being a little bit of a respite from the joys of the modern world. So it's a shame we can't do that at the moment, but we can still bring you the best comics around and, come in, quick chat. We can still do takeaway coffees and that kind of thing as well. So we're delighted to still be operating, obviously, given the troubling times at the moment. So we thank you again, each and every person that walks through the door. As I say, loads of great titles last week. One that really stood out. It didn't quite make it into my top 3, but I will be onto that in a second. A great title came out last week called Crossover from Donny Cates. Now, the only reason it didn't make it into my top 3 this week is because I actually read it about a month ago. So maybe some of the luster had gone, but it's a brilliant title. Really great new Image series. And we were really lucky to get an exclusive variant into the store. One of the first ones we've ever got, which was done by Ben Oliver. It was a situation set up by another comic store in England who wanted to help other comic stores coming out of lockdown. And, they had good contacts. They got this cover commissioned. And there was just 500 copies of it all around the UK. 500 copies produced worldwide, I should say. And we sold them a cover price, and I think we're down to our last 2. So if it's something that interests you, get in touch. If we still have it, it's all yours, but it is very limited, and obviously once it sells out sort of thing. So just have to wait and see with that. The previews book arrived. I've got most of the previews board written up. I just have to add Roddy's titles for that, which I will do tomorrow. Again, I haven't been in the store an awful lot, so I will get that done tomorrow, get it shared through social media, and then hopefully me and the guys can get together to put a podcast out as well. But yeah, as I say, also with regards to this week, I've had a few different questions regarding CGC. Now, it's proven really popular since we've started it. We just sent off 25 there again last Friday, and I have another 25 going off tomorrow. A few people have been asking me, will it be done in time for Christmas? Now, I can't 100% guarantee that. We're obviously at the behest of, the different postal services. We're at the behest of how quickly CGC turn it around. What I would say is if you've got something you'd like done, get it in as soon as possible, because the current turnaround time seems to be 3 to 4 weeks. So we're just about fitting within that Christmas period. But then again, they may get more submissions this time of the year because people have the same idea. So if you do have something you want sent off, do come into us as soon as you can and we'll get it off. Again, we can't 100% guarantee they will be back, but we will make sure they're packaged, sent first class. We will do everything our end to move the process along as quickly as possible. Also, with Christmas coming up, it's just worth mentioning as well, we do sell gift vouchers in store. So we often get people coming in looking for a present for someone, and they'll say they're a Batman fan or they're a Spider-Man fan or, that kind of stuff. But it's hard for us sometimes to pick something that they'll enjoy because we don't 100% know if they've already got it. Obviously, if you did indulge in that kind of thing and you bought something they did have it, just bring it back. We'll certainly trade it for something else. But vouchers are a good way to go because then whoever they're for can come into the store. We can recommend stuff to them. We can get a good chat with them. We can find something that they'd really like. So vouchers, there's no expiry date on them either. So, you don't have to worry about using them within a month or within 6 months or anything like that. But just thought it was worth mentioning. Another thing coming up this December, we're going to do a charity auction for a couple of CGC slabs. We have raised money before for the Cancer Fund for Children, so we're going to do that again. We like to always do something every year around Christmas. Last year we got a lot of comics donated to us, and we gave those to the sort of children's wards in the hospitals. And this year we're going to just fundraise that way instead. So as I said, there's going to be a couple of cool CGCs. I'm just finalizing what they're going to be. It's going to be like £2 a ticket, that kind of thing, and we'll see how much money we can raise. I'll probably go live with that on the 1st of December, and then it will run until the 23rd, and then we'll draw a winner on the 24th as well, early in the morning, which would give people time if they live close by to come and claim the prize. But again, we just like giving something back every year, and a wee charity auction just seems to be the way to go. So keep an eye out on the social media channels for that, and in store as well. We'll definitely keep you updated on that as well. So that's all the bits and pieces for the store anyway. We'll just move on to the usual favourite 3 titles from last week. As I say, tons of great stuff, and there was a lot of stuff that was very close to making the top 3, but got to be strict about these things. Thor 9 was very good. It was very, very close to getting onto the list. I really enjoyed Rise of Ultraman number 3 as well. Batman 102 was superb, but I kind of feel sometimes that I'm just picking Batman every single week, so I'm going to stay away from that and instead go with 3 different ones. But it is 2 DC and 1 Marvel this week for my picks of the week. I do still have a couple of single issue indie series to read, so I'll include those next week if something really, really sticks out. But the first thing that sticks out for me, wanting to stay away from Batman and all that, the first thing that sticks out for me is Tales from the Dark Side, Hush. Which of course is Batman, but it's Batman done in a different way. So the dark multiverse stuff is Elseworlds in all but name. It's looking at a key story from DC's history and putting a fresh spin on it. This one I thought was awesome. It was written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's doing great work on The Last God, and the artist on this deserves particular praise, which is Dexter Soy. Now the reason I single the art out so much is because it really sits hand in hand with the original Hush, which of course was done by Jim Lee. And this really is a great compliment to it. There are faces in it, there are sort of camera angles, the colouring, everything really would sit really nicely with the original Hush. I mean, this was like an original explanation of the original Hush story. You can see the art's fantastic there. One of the great things that Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee did in the original Hush was they did these great flashback, black and white, sort of blue and white sequences. So again, they've done something similar here. They've done everything they can to evoke the idea that this is a really good sort of comparison piece, or companion piece, I suppose, to the original Hush. But with this one, it's essentially, instead of Bruce being on his own in that alleyway, the Elliots are with him as well. And Bruce's parents still get killed, but the Elliots take him in and raise him. And Bruce is forever scarred by this. Bruce ends up in Arkham Asylum. Tommy Elliot becomes essentially head of Wayne Enterprises. And this his girlfriend is Talia al Ghul. You still have a lot of the Gotham stalwarts in here. You've Black Canary, you've got Jason Todd, you've got Dick Grayson, you've got Harvey Dent, you've got Penguin. So there's all these great characters being used in here, but just in slightly different ways. I just love these twists on established stories. But the Batman of this one looks like this. It's a great character design as well. But yeah, I just absolutely love these one-shots. I think they're just tremendous fun, really entertaining, really fun to see these characters utilized in a different way. And again, they're always a one-shot, so it's not a case of I have to read 6 issues or 3 issues or anything like that. It's a square bound as well, which again just gives it that little bit of extra luxury and just reads really well. So probably my pick of the week, to be honest. It was absolutely superb. I think we have a couple of copies left in the store. Then we'll move on to a Marvel pick, which is clearly a lead-in to the upcoming massive mega event that's coming in the next few weeks, which is called Keenan Black. So throughout Donny Cates' Venom run, he's done all these one-shots along the way called Web of Venom. Now, he doesn't always write them, but you can tell his fingerprints are all over the story each time. So the latest one that came out this week was Web of Venom, Empire's End. So with this one, it's obviously spinning out of the events of Empire. I still haven't read Empire. I really need to read it. I have all the issues upstairs. I really need to jump into it. But this one is written by Clay McLeod Chapman, and art is by Gio Villanova. And with this one, it's basically to do with the Kree and the Skrulls getting away from this ancient evil that they have come across on the other side of the galaxy, which turns out to be symbiotes. And it essentially turns into almost an Aliens type story. You know, it's got the real sort of suspense of Aliens or Alien, that kind of thing. It's continuing to show what a big bad null is. There's some great horror imagery here. I was really, really impressed with this, and it's continuing to really set the stage for Keenan Black. I think this is probably one of the most important one-shots so far leading to Keenan Black. I just think it's a lot of fun, and it's also giving you plenty of story, and also showing what type of challenge that the Marvel Universe is going to be up against once Null reaches Earth and Keenan Black kicks off. So really, really dug that one, I have to say. I think that's one of the best Web of Venom ones I've read for a while. Wraith was quite good, which was the one before that. But other than that, they can be up and down in quality, I think. And then the last one that really stood out for me this week, slightly bigger book to take out of. So we have the second part of Hellblazer, Rise and Fall. So this is, of course, the 3-issue Black Label mini-series written by Tom Taylor, art by Derek Robertson, who's so well known for The Boys. This, again, is just a tremendous lot of fun. This is a really good counterpoint to the current Hellblazer run, which is going on by Simon Spurrier. It's a lot darker. It's got a little less humor to it. This is more the Jack the Lad Constantine almost, but there's also some great horror worked into it as well. But it is definitely more lighthearted in tone to that Hellblazer run. But again, I just love these wee mini-series. They're, they're square bound, they're thicker issues. You're talking 48 pages minimum. Got that gorgeous Derek Robertson art the whole way through it. If you've read The Boys, then you know exactly what to expect here. Chunky, expressive characters, lots of humor. Yeah, really, really dug this. It's 2 issues in, as I said. It's going to be 3 in total. The only downside to it is that it's actually bi-monthly. So it's once every 2 months, which is the only frustrating part. You got to wait for the next one. But there's only one more to come at this point. And again, I really recommend jumping on this. Even if you don't get the singles, keep it in mind and jump onto the trades once they hit. I would imagine if you're talking 2 months for last issue, that'll be out by the end of this year. Trade will probably hit January, February, I would say. But do keep an eye out for it because it is awesome. So that's my favourite 3 titles of this week. We're going to now move on to the invoice for next week. Now, as I was saying, I was at my grandmother's funeral on Friday, and before I went, I actually came down to the store for an hour or two just to do a few things and, take my mind off everything else. But I got the invoice about half an hour before I left, so I was able to have a look through it. And Vicky was in store with me, and she got to see me actually dance a little jig, which is maybe out of, practice with what the rest of the day was. But that was because Deceased is finally on the invoice. Not just issue 3, not just issue 4, but issue 5 as well. So we're getting a triple dose of Deceased next week. I put a little tweet up regarding this. I took a sort of close-up of the invoice, put it up and said, basically, stop annoying me, it's coming out. It's become such a running joke in store as well. But finally, it is coming. And what was really good about the tweet I put up is Tom Taylor retweeted it straight away, saying, for those of you asking, the missing UK copies are finally turned up. I think even he was getting bored of getting people messaging him because it's essentially because we all just want to read it. That's the main thing. It's not so much that, we're impatient or anything like that. We just want to read the thing. So, without a doubt, what I'm looking forward to most next week is getting my hands on Deceased. It'll be really cool to actually have a triple back-to-back of it. But anyway, what have we got next week? So, got a double dose of Amazing Spider-Man as well, because you've got issue 52. But you've also got issue 52.LR, so they're hitting us with a double dose of Amazing Spider-Man next week. We've got American Vampire 1976, number 2 coming out. We've still got some number 1s in store. Highly recommend jumping on that if you're not on it already. Another one we've been waiting on for quite a while, it seemed to be part of the same shipment that got lost with Deceased, was the Batman Animated Adventures Continue. So again, we're getting a double dose of that next week. We're getting number 4 and number 5 back to back next week. We also have another Death Metal one-shot coming next week, which is Dark Knight's Death Metal Infinite Hours Extreme. So again, another one-shot, been really digging those. Deceased Dead Planet, I assure you it is there. I'll believe it even more when I see them in my hands. So we've got all the cover A's coming, we've got the cardstock Matina variants and the cardstock movie variants coming there as well. More Batman next week, so you've got Detective Comics 1030 coming next week. We've got Excalibur number 14, so continuing on X of Swords there. We have reordered in Garth Ennis's Earth, which is a great little children, well, it's an all ages book really. I got a lot of fun out of it. I even recorded a podcast read through of it just for the crack. But that's, if you've got younger readers and you're looking something nice for Christmas, so a nice wee sort of family friendly story, all a one shot from the writer of The Boys and Punisher and Preacher comes Earth. But it is genuinely really good. We've got Harleen coming back in trades because again it's just so popular and just so good. We've got Kick-Ass versus Hit-Girl number 1, so that's the start of a new 5-issue mini-series coming next week. We've got a bunch of the Venom Legends characters coming in next week, action figures. So we've got Carnage, Venomized Ghost Spider, Morbius, Phage, and Venom. Marvel Zombies Resurrection number 4 hitting next week, so that's the last issue for their zombie series. Same week as Deceased, gotta love that. What else we got? We got the second volume of Once and Future coming out. So Once and Future is a store favourite, certainly in single issues, and they are not holding back and getting the trades out quickly, which is great to see. We've got Power Rangers number 1 coming next week. So Mighty Morphin proved really popular last week. So Power Rangers is coming out. It's the sister series to Mighty Morphin. We've got the Punchline one-shot coming next week. So written by Tinian, art by Mirko Andolfo. Looking forward to that just because I love the artist so much. I mean, I enjoy Tinian's writing, as anybody who watches this knows. But I love Mirko Andolfo's art. We've got Savage Avengers number 14 coming. Got a new indie series starting next week that looks really good called Scarentude. Number 1 of that coming. It's going to be 4 issues. 7 Secrets. Always a good week when there's 7 Secrets coming out. We're getting all the Tom Taylor love next week. So number 4 of that is coming next week. Got Star Wars Darth Vader number 7. I believe it's going to be a pretty big issue. Possible first appearances in that. Have to wait and see. We have Strange Academy number 5 coming next week. Superman number 27 coming next week. The Thor trade paperback is coming next week, so the first volume of Donny Cates' Thor. It's called The Devourer King, so we've got that coming just in case you've been trying to play catch up. So we're hitting trades with that, which is great to see. We've got True Lives of Fabulous Killjoys National Anthem number 2. Really dug number 1 of that. Warhammer 40k Mornius Calgar number 2 coming, so for someone who is not a Warhammer guy, really enjoyed number 1. We Only Find Them When They're Dead number 3 coming next week, which is great to see. Great series that. And then we've got Wolverine number 7, Wonder Woman 766, and then I had to get top-ups of Year Zero, the awesome AWA zombie series. So tons to look forward to there. As I say, Deceased is coming. Please stop bugging me for it. It is coming, I promise you. Please don't let there be any boxes missing Diamond, please. So yeah, that's next week. I'm just going to finish off with a few bits and pieces that sort of caught the eye this week. Now, in fairness, there wasn't loads and loads because I think America was that busy making sure that they kicked that orange man-child out of office. So the most eyes were on the American election last week. So there's only bits and pieces here, but there were a few things that caught my eye I thought were worth throwing out there. There was this report from Bleeding Cool, actually, which talks about how DC might be leaving behind their shared universe in 2021. Now, as I say, it comes from Bleeding Cool. It's not official, but they usually are pretty good with these things. They usually do get them right more often than not. So just to sort of quote their article on it, the idea here seems to be that individual books can play fast and loose with continuity and history, creating stories that stand alone and presumably could be more easily marketed to the bookstore market. While hardcore comic fans have long clung to the decades-long ongoing narrative of Marvel and DC's shared universe, The idea that you need to know what happened in Superman in 1995 in order to understand Batman in 2020 doesn't always sit well with potential readers. The report suggests that the upcoming Future State event, check out my previous YouTube video for that, it'll give you a bit of detail on Future State and the titles that are coming out. But the idea is that event is going to tee up a new status quo for March 2021. That'll be a bit more lax in terms of following a single continuity across all the books. So this sounds very soft rebootish. I don't know how much truth there is to it. We'll have to wait and see. I'm for anything that makes comics more approachable for new readers, both as a store and as a reader myself. I obviously love my decades-long continuity as well, but that's still there. It's not like that just disappears or those books aren't available anymore. So I'm 50-50 on it, I have to say, but we'll just have to wait and see how Future State pans out. But it's not only DC that are shaking things up, Marvel are as well. Marvel actually had some cutbacks recently. They put a lot of people out in furlough, they put people on the shelf, that kind of thing. And one of their publishers, a gentleman called John Nee, is no longer with the company. Now, it's a name that you might not have heard too much because he works behind the scenes an awful lot, isn't one of those public faces like a Joe Quesada or a Jim Lee or that kind of thing. But he actually brought the Warhammer license to Marvel last year, so that's not a bad legacy to go out on, I suppose. You know, he's been a long-term veteran of the comics industry. He was president of Wildstorm, so he has pre-existing relationships with Jim Lee as well. So there's always a chance that he'll end up at DC as well, I would say. But yeah, I mean, the current pandemic worldwide and the business is always changing, the business is always shifting. So it doesn't surprise me that there's bits and pieces like this where certain people are being let go, so to speak. But it's a shame to see because he was obviously doing some good work there and bringing some interesting stuff through with the likes of Warhammer. Another bit of news that I don't know whether I'm too pleased about it or not, because I've always said this should just remain a comic, but the Fox Network series adaptation of Y the Last Man is in production. So they've started filming. It has a stacked cast featuring Diane Lane, Ashley Romans, Ben Schnetzer, Olivia Thirlby, Amber Tamlin, Maren Ireland, Deanna Bang, Elliot Fletcher, and Juliana Camfield. There's no word on when the show will premiere, but it is being filmed at the moment. You know, Why the Last Man's very, very important story to me. It is my favorite comic of all time. Obviously, that's always subject to change, but to this point in my life, it's my favorite comic of all time. You know, all the single issues, all the absolutes. I've bought it many times, recommend it all the time. It's essentially a story about what would happen if every man in the world dropped dead from a mystery virus and only women were left to rule the world, so to speak. But all the men die, I should say, except for one, Yorick, and his pet monkey, Ampersand. I can't recommend Why the Last Man enough. It is a phenomenal piece of literature. It makes you think, it's funny, it's action-packed. It's just awesome. We do our best to always have it in store, whether it's in the trades, the hardcovers, or I'm going to get the absolutes in as well, but the absolutes are pricey, but for a story that good, it is what it is. But yeah, you know, in terms of a TV adaptation, I don't know, because it was 60 issues. Will it do well enough to stay on the air for those 60 issues? How much will they change? I don't know. We'll wait and see. You know, Saga is a good example here. Brian K. Vaughan, who also wrote Why the Last Man, obviously writes Saga. And he's always said Saga is for the comic market only, and it will never be adapted. On that subject, can we please have it back, Brian K. Vaughan? Please. It's been on hiatus for years now. But one of the reasons it has me worried as well, as I say, is will it do well enough to see it all through? Because this week I've been following on Twitter Rick Remender, and he's been talking about how Deadly Class is trending worldwide. It's now on Netflix in 16 different countries. And worldwide, if you add all those together and take the average, it's the second most watched show on Netflix in 16 different countries. Where was this a year ago when they could have greenlit a season 2? It's an eternal frustration of mine because Deadly Class was phenomenal. Such a great adaptation. Brilliant comic, as anybody who knows me knows. But also a fantastic show. That first season was perfect. Brilliantly cast, inventive, original, and unlike anything else on TV. So I was gutted that it didn't come back for season 2. Whether this will lead to something, I don't know. I think there's probably rights issues it's tied up in. We'll wait and see. But if you've never watched Deadly Class, seek it out. I think this side of the world, it's only really on Amazon Prime, but it's also on Amazon Prime in a way you got to pay for. It's like Sci-Fi Pass or something like that. But anyway, watch it if you get a chance. And then just one last thing I was going to finish off on, just a wee fun story. There was a group of fans who impressively pulled off a Lego remake of Matt Reeves' Batman trailer. Apparently it took around 2 months of work to assemble, and it was actually good enough. It caught the eye of the screenwriter of the Batman, Mattson Tomlin, and he posted a link on Twitter. So really search it out. It's a lot of fun. Obviously that Batman trailer is very dark and very, tons of pathos and all that kind of stuff. And just putting in Lego just makes it that little less threatening, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, search that out. It's a bit of fun to start the week with. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for the week. As I say, I will be back in store hopefully a bit more this week. So if there's any questions or anything you're after, I should be in store the rest of the week. Vicky's done amazing to hold the fort down the last 2 weeks and take care of me at home. So it's maybe my turn to repay the favour. So I'll be there all week this week. So hope you enjoyed this as ever. Again, any questions, get in touch. But please spread the word if you think anybody else would like this show or you think it'll be informative to them. And hopefully I'll see you guys in store. So stay safe out there. Take it easy.